Welcome, thanks for joining us. Today we're checking out the GT4000 LPG or dual fuel unit. The neat thing about this is we know the GT4000 is a fantastically reliable, quiet, perfect machine for people that are looking at off-grid situations. We've sold hundreds if not thousands of the GT4000 and now it comes with the option of LPG. So the neat thing about having LPG as well as petrol, you think about situations like when the cyclone struck, petrol stations were inaccessible for many people, or the trucks couldn't actually get in to refuel the bases. Whereas many people at home, they had a 9 kg gas cylinder or even 2 or 3 9 kg gas cylinders. That could run one of these machines for a long time. So who buys a GT4000? People who are off-grid. We have sold, again, hundreds if not thousands of these machines to off-grid users. The neat thing about the GT4000, it's got this thing here called a 2-wire start. So essentially that means for off-grid users, they have an inverter on their wall that works with their solar, and when the current gets down on the batteries, it starts the generator. All by itself, it's all automatic. It's pretty cool. Equally so, other people have wired up remote switches at different points around their sectional house that can come back to this unit. The other part of that though is there's a wireless remote set up here that can work from around 50 metres away from the generator. Obviously again, if you've got a wall in between, yes, the remote start will work, but your capacity or distance is reduced by any barriers that are in the way. So looking at features for our GT4000 LPG, on the front here we have two 15 amp outlets. We've got a DC 12 volt outlet. Again, our 2-wire start for off-grid users. Our LPG inlet. On the side here we have our propane or LPG or petrol. So it's that simple. If you have run out of petrol or you want to switch to LPG or vice versa, turn the dial across. Pretty straightforward. Push button start. Our eco mode. So looking at eco mode drops the revs of the motor. The advantage of that is it makes your tank of fuel or your 9 kg gas cylinder last a lot longer. The advantage of leaving eco mode off though, if you're running large appliances or you've got power tools and you need a huge amount of current really fast, we leave the eco mode off. It has the revs of the generator up a little bit higher, but it makes it quicker to respond to a higher load. On the side here we've got two USB outputs. You'll notice that one is a 1 amp, the other one is a 2.1 amp. So again, if you had a high draw USB device, you would go into the 2.1 amp outlet there. These two ports here are for parallel output or parallel operation. If you had two GT4000s and you wanted to run them in parallel, you can get the leads, hook them together, and one of the outputs on the machine will give you 8,000 watts of current. That's pretty neat. The advantage of that situation, rather than having an 8,000 watt generator, is that they're still light and portable. You can still pull the carry handle out the front. You can still walk it like a trolley. It's 40 kgs empty. It's reasonably portable. Whereas the GT8000, I think, weighs in around 100, 105 kgs. So, cool function. Down the bottom here, we have a small charging port. So thinking about, we've got our GT switched on, and we've got the remote start keys. Again, they can work from a long way away. It's a bit like a car. If you leave your ignition on in the car for an extended period of time, then come back in, turn the keys, jump in at the start, you're not going to have a happy experience. With any of the brands of generator out there that have a battery in them, if they're left on standby for an extended period, it will slowly draw the battery down. So the smart people at GT have thought about this little connection on the front here. So we have either 12 volt trickle chargers that you can run 240 volt into 12 volt trickle charger, and it will run back in the front here and keep the battery topped up. Or we've got some solar panels on the way. They're only small solar panels, but you put it in the sunlight and you'll always have trickle charge coming into your GT, and you'll never have to worry about your GT battery going flat. Pretty cool, right? So now let's talk about setup. You've received your GT, you've got it out of the box. What do you need to do first? The first thing is checking in the oil. On the side of the machine, you'll see there's an easy to remove cover. If you take this off and unthread the oil bung, you can see whether it's got oil in it already or whether you need to add this. You'll see that there's markings on the plug so you know where to fill it to. On the back of the GT4000, there's a small cover. If we remove this, we can see a plug that we join together, which will give us battery current. My suggestion is, before we do that though, we'll go to the front of the machine and just make sure that our battery ignition is turned off. It just removes any chance of a spike of current going through your machine. So we've got oil in the machine, we've connected our battery terminals at the back. We can now put petrol in or connect our LPG hose on the front. So let's do that. As you can see, we've got a normal or standard LPG fitting here. This will fit onto your 9 kg gas cylinder. It also has a regulator inbuilt to it, so all we need to worry about is connecting it onto the front of the machine. So I've got my crescent here. It's only a very gentle tighten. We don't want to be cranking it around because we might break some of the connections inside the machine. Easy as that. So let's grab our 9 kg gas cylinder. So now it's all connected. We make sure we've got the tap on our LPG. Make sure on the LPG sitting on this side on the generator, and we're good to go. So I'm standing right beside the machine, and the microphone on my shirt here is the same distance between me and the machine. It'll give you some idea of how loud that volume is. It's pretty darn quiet. That said, let's grab our decibel reader and do some measurements with the GT. It's a cold day here in Wakefield in the top of the south, and I've got my cup of tea ready, I've got my jug, and I'm going to boil up the water from our GT4000. So let's have a look and see how it works on noise. The jug is around 2200 watts, so thinking about our machine, it's got a peak capacity of 4000 watts. So 2200 is just over half the capacity of the GT4000. So we just had a truck go past, and it was around half a kilometre away. Our decibel reader jumped up to around 65. Now let's start the GT. Our GT machine is around 10 metres away. And we're at 53 decibels. So a truck half a kilometre away made a lot more noise than what our GT makes at 10 metres away. Equally so, when a generator has more load on it, it will create more volume. So I've got my jug here. It's a bit of a cold day. I've got my cup of tea ready. Let's put the jug on and see how much our decibels go up. So as you can hear, the machine lifted the revs to combat the extra load that's gone on it. So now we're at 60 decibels. So it's still quieter with a reasonable load on the machine than what that truck was half a kilometre away. And it's a 50k zone here, so the truck wasn't going fast, it was only idling past. The big problem we do have though is it's going to take about 5 minutes for the jug to boil, and I'm thirsty. So just as our jug's boiling here, just a bit of a comparison, we're at just under 70 decibels. So I'm about 30 centimetres away from where the jug is, just under 70 decibels. So again, the jug's making a lot more noise than what the GT4000 is. So now as our jug's boiled, you'll hear the revs drop on the GT and the volume goes down. So again, 10 metres away, we're around 54 decibels, pretty quiet. The only thing left to do at this point is have a cup of tea. You'll notice that I make no decibels when I'm drinking a cup of tea.